The Colonial Parkway Murders were a series of unsolved killings that occurred in Virginia between 1986 and 1989. The victims were all young couples who were murdered while parked in their cars along the scenic Colonial Parkway. Cathy Thomas and Rebecca Dowski were the first victims, found dead in their car in 1986. The couple had been out for a night of dancing and were on their way home when they were attacked. Their bodies were discovered in the car the next day, partially clothed and with their throats slashed. The killer struck again the following year, claiming the lives of David Knobling and Robin Edwards. The couple had been on a date and were last seen leaving a party together. Their bodies were discovered the next morning in their car, which had been pushed over an embankment. Both had been shot in the head, and Edwards' throat had been cut. The final victims, Keith Call and Cassandra Haley, were killed in 1989. They had been on a weekend trip to Virginia Beach and were driving home along the Colonial Parkway when they were attacked. Their bodies were found in Call's car, which had been pushed into a ditch. Both had been shot in the head. Despite extensive investigations by law enforcement, the killer or killers have never been identified. The case remains unsolved, and the brutal killings continue to haunt the families of the victims and the community. The Colonial Parkway Murders investigation. The investigation into the Colonial Parkway Murders was one of the largest and most complex in Virginia history. Numerous law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, Virginia State Police, and local police departments, worked together to try to solve the case. In the early stages of the investigation, the authorities believed that the murders may have been the work of a single serial killer. However, as the case progressed, some investigators began to suspect that the killer or killers may have been law enforcement officers themselves. One of the most significant leads in the case came in 1989, when a fisherman discovered a pair of sweatpants along the York River. The pants were later identified as belonging to Keith Call, one of the victims in the Colonial Parkway Murders. The discovery led investigators to search the river, where they discovered the couple's car. The car was in a wooded area near the York River, about a mile from where the sweatpants were found. The vehicle had been pushed off the road and into a ditch, and the bodies of Call and Haley were found inside. Both had been shot in the head, and there was evidence of sexual assault, despite the discovery of the car and other evidence, including several hairs found on the victims' bodies. The case remains unsolved. Over the years, numerous suspects have been investigated, including some law enforcement officers. However, no one has ever been charged with the murders. Theories and suspects. Over the years, numerous theories and suspects have been investigated in connection with the Colonial Parkway Murders. Some investigators believe that the killer or killers may have been members of law enforcement, due to the level of skill and knowledge involved in the crimes. One suspect who has been heavily investigated is a former Virginia state trooper named Robert Lee Yates, Jr. Yates was a suspect in a number of other murders in the region and was convicted of murdering 13 women in Washington state. However, despite extensive investigations, no direct evidence has been found linking Yates to the Colonial Parkway Murders. Another theory is that the killings may have been the work of a group of people, possibly including law enforcement officers. Some investigators believe that the victims may have witnessed illegal activity, or that the killings may have been part of a larger criminal conspiracy. The families of the victims have been vocal in their criticism of the investigation, alleging that law enforcement